Welcome back, everyone. Is it possible that all of today's events that you're seeing on the news, the current uh, Wall Street plunge that's taking place, the war going on, the food shortages that are about to happen, could all of those have their origin in the ancient past? I'm talking about the woo world, as we call it. This is the place where all patterns collide to begin to show you the larger picture. I'm Jack Cary, and this is Threshold. All right. If you've been watching my series, then you'll know that I've been talking about the recent events of the last week or so for weeks now. It's something that's been predicted for quite a while, going back to Cliff High's Alta reports, even got back as far as 2016. This is what we call woo-nomics, or the economics of the woo world. That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm the author of a book called Paranormal Planet, and that's the name of a live show I do on Thursday nights on my channel, Paranormal Intelligence Agency, that's listed as a sister channel here on the fabulous CARC channel, which is an amazing array of researchers. And in my book, I propose that there are two origins to all paranormal activity. One of those origins is interdimensional in nature. This is the kind of activity that we're witnessing, like at Skinwalker Ranch. And I've stated that Skinwalker Ranch is, in fact, part of the overall ongoing disclosure that's taking place. In other words, I think that through basically CIA's Project Mockingbird and predictive programming, they're utilizing the show, Skinwalker Ranch, to get the public used to a lot of this information. And I say that because the fact that they had the chief scientist on there state that he had spoken with intelligence agents who had told him that they were monitoring them on the ranch. And then they filmed a unmarked CIA plane fly by the ranch and said as much on the air to the entire public. That is a tell that this whole thing is actually a put on. Not that they're not relaying factual information, because I believe that they are, but this is a way of them warming the public up. The other kind of paranormal activity, I believe, is being caused by interaction with what I call a type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Now, Nicholas Kardashev was a scientist who came up with the idea that you could judge the technological advances of a civilization by how much power they were consuming. Today, scientists believe that they can build, if a civilization's advanced enough, it'll build a structure around an entire star, harnessing the entire power of that star, and that would be needed to power the technology. Presumably, once that technique could be mastered, it could be done as needed for colonization through space. It is also notable that another famous scientist named Enrique Fermi had what's called Fermi's paradox, in which he was famous for making the statement that the absence of aliens on our doorstep is in itself significant. And he was talking about the Drake equation from uh, Drake, the guy who invented the radio telescope and came up with the Drake equation to determine how many, uh, surviving advanced civilizations there would be in the galaxy. And Fermi looked at those and said, well, if that's true, and it appears to be, then where are they? Because they should be right here. Of course, Enrico Fermi wasn't paying attention to the UFO phenomenon, which was going crazy at the time being. And he didn't realize that they were here. These guys all had preconceived notions that they were somehow going to just land on the White House lawn and present themselves and all of that. It's just such a naive human idea. So think of it like this. Fermi said that, and a lot of our scientists today agree, that the galaxy's been around, the Milky Way galaxy has been around long enough that at least one of the civilizations that was spawned within the galaxy would have survived long enough and become advanced enough to have colonized the entire galaxy. They own the entire galaxy. Think of a civilization so ancient, so old, that it sends out artificially intelligent craft all over the galaxy that just seed entire planetary systems with humanoid like life that eventually develops, and then it comes back and farms those systems into its overall civilization. That's the kind of advancement that we're talking about. And Arthur C. Clarke once said that any sufficiently advanced science will be indistinguishable from magic. And he, of course, invented the communications satellite and wrote a lot of good science fiction. And I would remind everyone that what we are seeing in a lot of the UFO related paranormal activity is a science that looks very much to us like magic. That, in his estimation, would be a sufficiently advanced science, and the only civilization theoretically that could create such a sufficiently advanced science to look like magic would be a type 3 civilization of the kind that I'm describing. Now, all of this is part of my unified field theory of paranormal activity. Those are the two branches, and I cover that in my book, Paranormal Planet. Now, where this comes in is the fact that through all of this mechanism, it appears as though our planetary system was in fact inhabited by two other civilizations when the Earth was very, very primitive and uninhabited. That resulted, as I've discussed in previous episodes, in various bloodlines on this planet who have gained power and control through the fact that they share a lineage going back to what appears to have been an alien genetic interaction with hominids on this planet. And this is all described in the Sumerian tablets, something which I also talk about. So today's events unfolding as we speak really is the fact that the central bank of the US, which I previously have discussed as being part of an overall sort of banking cabal that's been put in place for thousands of years, really, is in the midst of a major crisis. They're trying to play it cool, but they're in the process of trying to fight hyperinflation, which is something I told everyone was coming a long time ago. That's what all the good sources were saying. It's not like I was psychically receiving that information. I take in a huge number of sources, and most of the really highly credible ones were saying this is going to be bad. And they're right. This isn't just going to be a recession. A recession would be Disneyland compared to what is coming. We're talking about a full-blown depression, 1920 style on steroids. And still to this day, all of this is controlled by central banking. And the central banking goes back to some of these bloodlines that are chronicled, in the book of Enoch. It's chronicled in Genesis 6:4. It's chronicled in various ancient texts around the world. And today there's a major struggle going on. They've had control for so long, and control is slipping out of their hands. And the fact is the system that they've developed could only live for so long. Eventually, it was doomed to fail because at some point in population growth, you reach a point of negative returns. And that's the point where there's always an attempt to knock back the human population to gain control and reharness it again. And they're at that breaking point now. This go around, there's a few things that are really nasty about the economic situation that weren't present during the dot-com bubble burst and weren't present during the 1920s depression. And that is the overall sovereign wealth debt of the United States, which is crushing, absolutely crushing. And the only thing that they can do is print money, which is really based on nothing more than the fact that you have to use money to pay for oil around the world, dollars, US dollars. That makes it the reserve currency. That's about to go bye-bye. When it's no longer the reserve currency, you're going to see an economic depression that people just can't even imagine right now. A lot of people have been preparing for it. And it's not all doom and gloom. The estimation is for about a 5-year rebuilding period once the total crash occurs and the central banks no longer exist, because they will no longer exist really after this year. This is going to go down this year. There's going to be a grand period of human growth and new invention, and a lot of things that were being stifled by the old chains of the old guard are going to go away, and there's going to be things appear like well, I won't get too far off course, but med beds that people are talking about out there on some of the more esoteric areas of the internet. The idea that there's a technology that exists whereby they can use electromagnetic fields to heal disease. Things like that. Recently, there is a number of articles coming out about a new human trial where they injected numerous patients that had cancer with a new cancer-killing virus, and there was a 100% cure rate. 100%. It's out there. Look at it. And so this crash is occurring, and they're stuck in a situation where every time that they raise the rates, the amount of leverage that's been taken on in the stock market is causing it to plummet. As it's plummeting, it's taking everyone's retirement money with it. Usually through history, you get a big bounce back. This time, since most of these stocks are based on the US dollar, it could be a whole other scenario. I am by no means a financial advisor, Lord knows. But this is sort of the explanation through the Woo-nomics of what's occurring, the undercurrents of what actually is taking place. This is also all tied to the manipulation of precious metals. And if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I'm a silver guy. I'm a firm believer that everyone should be. accumulating physical silver. And that's just one of those survival type things. Imagine everything does crash. The bank they seize all of your money. There's a bail in, not a bail out, which means they take your money and you get a promissory note that they'll pay it back to you with interest over time. That's how that works. And they can do it. There's a run on banks. You can't get any money. There's a run on the stores. There's a run on everything. What are you going to use for currency? Everything eventually will revert back to real money. And a lot of people suspect that real money, which is precious metals, will be represented by digital currency or blockchain technology, basically. So blockchain will be backed by actual precious metals. There'll be a marriage of that in some way, shape, or form. And that will prevent monetary manipulation going forward, because blockchain keeps monetary manipulation from occurring because everybody's got a distributed ledger. So good things are coming, but the next few years are going to be very, very difficult and very, very bleak. You have dark entities out there like BlackRock Corporation that's got 10 trillion in assets that were buying up all of the rental properties in the United States and then jacking up the prices. This is all part of a grand master plan. And all of this, these large entities are controlled by what really goes back to a hostile alien intelligence, which is still in control. And if you follow groups like the remote viewers at farsight.org, for example, where they've targeted the idea that human leadership is being manipulated, there's some very interesting stuff there. There's also some FBI documents talking about aliens' ability to use thought transference, induction, to actually control human behavior and activity. So, this is one of those places where all of this stuff is converging, and it's going to shock a lot of people. It's going to shake a lot of people's foundation to the very core. Their belief systems, everything's going to be called into question. There will be food shortages coming. That's something everyone should be prepared for. If you follow any kind of conspiratorial like thread anywhere, you'll see the sheer number of food processing plants that have closed down this year in the United States, most of them through unexplained fires or accidents of some kind. And I'm talking, there's dozens of them. It's amazing. It really is. They all look like an accident, so it's really weird that, it all happens at the same time. But there's a lot of talk that's part of this whole thing that's taking place. Now, in August, there is a prediction that the public conversation, the taboo aspect of the public conversation on UFOs goes bye-bye. And it will no longer be seen as taboo, and people will be openly having those conversations at dinner, at restaurants and stuff nonstop. Apparently, there will be something that happens this summer which causes that. I don't know for sure, but there is a new documentary coming out shortly. It's called A Tear in the Sky. In the documentary, it has the guy who was the Master Chief Flight Control guy that was in charge the night that there were Air Force pilots who encountered Tic Tac UFOs. Everybody's seen those videos now. In the documentary, he claims that at one point there were hundreds of Tic Tacs, not just one, hundreds of them. that in itself would disprove any idea that or thought that that those are being manufactured on the Earth. The idea is because that depth or expansive manufacturing of craft like that would show up on spy satellite imaging. You would have to have some sort of facility to produce hundreds of these craft that are defying physics as our scientists understand it. And so who knows, maybe that's part of it. I know that during the filming of the documentary, this is sort of inside stuff, they filmed what they thought was a portal, an alien portal of some kind opening in the sky. So we'll see what comes of that. It's sort of been making a pretty good, well, in the world of ufology, there's a lot of expectation about this documentary. A lot of people are looking forward to it. And so here we are. We're right at the cusp of the point where you're going to begin to see everything sort of pick up, sputter, and stall. And it's something that a lot of people have been aware of for a while. Don't be shocked when it occurs. Know that on the other side, hang on, there's going to be really good stuff that's predicted to happen. In the meantime, we're in the process of secrets revealed. We're in the age when everything is going to, Kevin Day is the name of the man, that the flight deck Master Chief. But we're right in the process where you're going to begin to see all of this stuff up close. You're going to see the point where the talking heads on TV can no longer deny reality, and they'll begin discussing a lot of the truth about the alien presence on this planet and what's going to occur in the future. Join me next week. I'm going to continue this series. So the alien origins ideas, the alien origins of everything that's happening right now in the daily news on our planet. And for example, just this week, I want to give you guys an example of all of the woo world stuff that occurred in mainstream. Time.com ran a story. NASA joins the effort to explain UFOs. So yes, indeed, NASA has now announced that they will be launching their own campaign to study UFOs. So now we'll have two programs, apparently. Very interesting. The people at Expedition Bigfoot have what they claim to be thermal imaging of what appears to be a Sasquatch peeking out from around a tree. That should be enormous news if true. And, you know, they seem pretty credible. The show seems pretty credible to me. Onward, there was a crazy dogman-like creature that's been photographed or filmed on a camera outside of the Amarillo Zoo that's made a huge splash on the internet. There was a UFO caught during the Queen's celebration on camera. Interesting Engineering is running an article, Everything We Need to Know About the Flying Saucer Phenomenon. You're seeing all of this stuff appear over and over again, almost on a daily basis now. And it's a nonstop flow. So join me next week. We'll be here same time, same place. We'll be examining the woo world. We'll talk a little bit more about woo-nomics, and we'll go back into some more of the actual history, basically of the bloodlines that have caused all of this. So join me then.
You've been watching Threshold with Jack Cary, a Catskill Appalachian Research Collective production. For more information on this program and others like it, remember to like, share, and subscribe to CARC Universal today. To join the conversation on our Facebook group, become a member of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective Facebook group. CARC. Relentless.